Hello, welcome to another video on Linux machines. I will try my best. Let's see. Oh, it's getting stuck this time again. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I think it works now. Okay. So we're gonna do a little bit of firewall D. Let's see if it's even running in this system. It is running here. So unlike UFW, which comes with Ubuntu, Firewall D is not as easy to master as UFW, but it sure has the capability to be used effectively to secure Linux boxes. It's not the same as IP tables. You use one or the other when it's available, and you can't use both. Even if you could, it would probably do something bad to your system. The main reason they are not compatible is because one stores its files in XML format and the other one in plain text format and in different directories. The nice thing if you're using CentOS or Red Hat is as well is that it comes with a nice GUI installed. So like for example, let me see if this has it. I think it does have it. Let's look it up. Yeah, see I think this right here, this is basically how you connect to firewall D on a CentOS machine. But for this lab, um, we're not gonna use the GUI. We're just gonna do the command line just because it's easier. But it's not easier, but just the way things are done, I guess. But once you get the hang of it, you'd be able to use the GUI. Once you install a GUI, a lot of times on Linux boxes, you won't see a GUI. If you're lucky out there on the field, you will see something with a GUI, and they'll make it easier. And as time goes on, there'll be more available to use GUI. But a lot of the times, to save memory, to save hard drive space, they don't put GUIs. They don't even. So, but the nice thing is that it comes by default. And the nice thing about having to use um, Firewall D is when you make the changes, you don't have to stop and restart the service, which is nice. So let's start by verifying the status of the firewall. So let's CMD state. It's running at least. Okay, or if we want a more detailed status, I think we can use the one that we just used, um, which is cool. Firewall D is rather unique. It comes with several pre-configured zones. If you look in let's look in the, where is user lib firewall. Okay. Uh, mm, where would it be in this one? Mm, well, there's no. Oh yeah, there is lib and then firewall and then zones. Let's see, they're all in XML format. So you have trusted. Let's look at the trusted one real quick. Oh, it doesn't have anything. It's just all network connections are accepted. Let's look at the block. All incoming are rejected. Incoming packets that are related to outgoing network connections are accepted. Outgoing network connections are allowed. So that's good. Which ports are to be open and which ones are to be blocked. For the public zone, looks like this. In the services name lines, let's look at the public one real quick. In the services names line, oops, services name lines, it says H. Let's see here. What am I trying to say real quick? You can see that only open ports are for secure shell access and for DHCP version 6 discovery. Look at the home, and you also see that it opens up the ports for multicast DNS and the ports that allow this machine to access shared directories from either Samba servers or Windows servers. So let's look at the home one. See, this one allows SSH, MDNS, Samba client, DHCP client, and this one is only for SDHC client and SSH. So that's pretty neat. You know, it comes kind of pre-configured for certain things. The firewall CMD utility is what you would use to configure firewall D. You can use it to view the list of zone files in your system without having to CD into the zone file directory. So let's look at that real quick. Sudo firewall CMD get zones zones block DMZ drop external. So it's the same thing. Those files we just looked at. This would be how we use those files, and those XML files would be how we change them. We change each one of those: the block, the DMZ, the drop, the external, the home, internal, public, and so forth. Let's see here. So a quick way to see how each zone is configured is to use the list all zones option. So we would use this, and instead it would be list all zones. And then I don't like you maximizing this screen on this computer because I could never see the bottom of this for some reason. Maybe if let's see, can I modify this? Always visible? No. Never mind. Resize. Huh. Anyways, so here we go, and it tells you what is available, what is not available, and what it's doing. The public one, it allows all of these, right? This is more likely the active one, so that's good. Of course, this is only a portion of the output because the listing for all zones is more than we can display here. More likely, you just want to see information on one particular zone. So let's go ahead and look at this again. But this time we're gonna list a specific zone. Info zone public. There it is. So we have that one, which is an active one. As you can see, it says active one. We could also use home. We could use DMZ. This is used for when you have a network that faces the outside, and we use it. And it doesn't have anything. It only lets you use SSH. So, all right. So the internal zone allows the SSH. Let's look at the internal real quick. Internal. It doesn't. Oh yeah, it does. It says DHCP 6 version 6 MDNS Samba client SSH. This would be handy for setting up client machines on your internal LAN. Any given server or client will have one or more installed network interface adapter. Each adapter in a machine can be assigned one and only one firewall zone. That's important right there. Let me read that again. Any given server or client will have one or more installed network interface adapters. Each adapter in a machine can be assigned one and only one firewall zone. To see the default zone, let's look at get default zone, which is going to be public. It doesn't tell you anything about which network interface is. That's cool and everything, but it does not telling us which interface is using it. Let me see if this. See, we have EMPOS3, which is the one with the IP address that we're using. We have the loopback interface, which is just the 127, and then we have the which I think is the one for this virtual machine that I'm using. Okay, so let's see here. Get active zone. Get active zones. See, this one tells you that the active one is public, and it also is using interface ENPOS3, which is pretty neat. When you first install CentOS, the firewall will already be active with the public zone as a default. Now let's say that you're setting up your server in a demilitarized zone, or DMZ, and you want to make sure that its firewall is locked down for that. You can change the default zone to the DMZ zone. Let's take a look at the DMZ exe file to see what it does for us. So let's just go into sudo, see what it has here. It says for computers in your demilitarized zone that are publicly accessible with limited access to your internal network, only selected incoming connections are accepted. Services, so only the service name. I imagine I've never really used um, uh, I've never really used, what am I trying to say? IP tables as much as I want to, because I usually just, for to get out of the hurry, I usually use Ubuntu machines with UFW, and that's usually enough. But I'm not sure. Let's see where this goes. Which is interesting because IP tables and firewall Ds is better way to use it because it's a little more complicated, so not everybody can like hack through it unless they know what they're doing. Alright, so the only thing that the DMNC allows through is this SSH, secure shell. That's good enough for now, so let's set the DMZ as a default. So now we're gonna change the, we're gonna change right now, like we just saw that the one we're using is public on interface EMP, or which is, the one connected to the internet here on my computer. So let's set it up so we can set up as the default zone equals DMZ. So we're gonna set that up, success. So now we use this and it's DMZ. So now only SSH will be allowed through it, but not, see how it changes DMZ. So that's cool. Now we'll verify get default zone Z. Except that this is an internet facing server in a DMZ, probably needs to do more than just allow SSH connecting. Let's use a, but before we look at let's consider one more important point. You never want to modify the files in the user lib firewall. So basically do it through these commands. Don't ever modify this folder right here. Let's see. What would it be? Don't ever, I guess, zones. This right here, I guess we don't want to modify these files. It's what it's trying to say. Whenever you modify the configurator, you'll see the modify file show up in the etc file. So far, all we modify is the default zone, so we'll see this in the etc firewall zone. Let's see. Let's see. I think that's not what it wants to tell. I'm looking at the wrong. Let's see. Oops. cd, let's see, sudo ls minus l etc firewall d. There we go. I think these are all the files in there, and we're looking specifically for firewall dconf, which is this one. Firewall dconf, which is this one, read and write, which is this user here, user group owner. That's good. And then the firewall D. Let's see which one are we looking at. Yep. Oh, we can do a diff on those two files to see the difference between them. All right, let's look at the difference between them. Not a bad thing to do. Firewall D, firewall. etc sudo diff etc firewall, and then etc firewall firewalled conf old. That's the only difference there. Let me see. Yep. So the newer of the two files shows the DMZ is now the default. That's all that proves there. If you wanted more information on this, just use this one right here. This command right here will help you out. The manual for it, which is pretty cool. What is a zone? Predefined services. It takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but it's pretty effective. As you can see, I'm following a guide, a tutorial, because I make changes to it and then I leave it alone. You know, when it ain't broke, don't fix it. So then I just forget about it. So I always have to I always have to go back and study it. That's why I'm kind of stuttering and taking my time, because I haven't used firewall D. Each server file contains a list of ports that need to be opened for a particular service. Optionally, the service files may contain one or more destination addresses or call in any needed modules, such as for connection tracking. For some services, all you need to do is just open one port. Other services, such as Samba service, require that multiple ports be open. Either way, it's sometimes handier to remember the service name rather than the port numbers that goes with each service. The service files are in the user lib firewall D services directory. You can look at the list of them with the firewall-cmd command, just as you could do with the list of zones. So let's look at that. CMD get zones. Oh no, get services. I'm sorry. Get services. See, those are all the services right there. Let's see, one that I probably could use is the MySQL NFS OpenVPN. That's a good one right there. HTTPS, I'm sure it's here somewhere. Yep, right here. See, it's HTTP and HTTPS. What's another popular one? TFTP. Of course, SSH is going to be somewhere here. Let's see, should be here somewhere. Yep, SSH. What else? A lot of other stuff that I probably don't use often. But look, there's even some for Bitcoin here. See, so that's good. See what else we can use it for. The Dropbox service would be very handy for us Dropbox users. Let's see which port this opens. Alright, let's see. So this, according to the author here, there is firewall cmd info services service Dropbox land sync oops unrecognized command. What am I doing? Firewall cmd info service equals down. Okay, Dropbox line syncs ports 1750 UDP. So if we're using some kind of Dropbox service, the LAN sync, I'm not sure what that is. I don't use it, but it uses port 17500 and TCP 171500. Let me see. Do I see anything for UDP? What is it that I uses port 161 and UDP port 162? Trying to remember what it is. I was just studying about that. Is it SNP or is it? Let's do the same, but let's do SNP. Yes, this one right here. See, 161 TCP and 161 UDP. Let's try SMTP. Oops, SMTP. That's port 25. Let's try DNS. That's going to be 53. Let's try ICMP. I believe that's 161. Oh, it's not on there. What's one? SSH is going to be port 22, and so on and so on. So that's cool. Alright, it looks like Dropbox uses ports 17500, UDP, and TCP. Now let's say we have our web server set up in the DMZ with the DMZ zone set as the default. As we saw before, the secure shell is the only port that's open. Now we saw that before, so I think we're going to add CMD info zone. So I think we're just gonna add that thing, that Dropbox LAN sync into this DMZ, which is the active one. Because let's say we have, this is a server facing whatever an internal network. I think usually the DMZ is set up when, let's say you have cash registers and then you have some like office workers and they're all sharing the same server, so you kind of make the cashiers is not public as office workers. So you would set up a demilitarized zone, meaning the office people would have access to the internet, but the cashiers, they wouldn't be able to visit the internet from, at least not from their POS systems. And I hope that explains it a little bit. Alright, as we saw before, the SSH is the only port that's open. Let's fix that so that users can actually access our website. Oh, okay, nice. So we're actually not going to add the LAN sync. What we're going to add is, let's say this was a, um, what is it called? Web server that we wanted. We want HTTPS, but for this lab, we're going to use HTTPS. So now we look at this again and we'll see HTTPS, meaning now somebody, well, let's see if we even have a, let's see real quick. Let's see if we even have anything on this web server like a default page or something, I'm not sure. I may have it. Oh, there we go. That's funny, see, because I usually use these virtual machines to study my, stuff. So let's go back over here and let's go back to, let's see, terminal. I don't have CD-bar. Okay. See, this is my index. So that's the web page that you're seeing. Let's see if we info DMZ remove service maybe. Alright, so let's see if now, well, internally we should probably still be able to see it, right? Yeah, it's still letting us, but I guess, aha, see, it's not, oh, there it goes. Okay, I don't know if that's the cache. Let me see real quick. Let me add it. Add service, right? And then let me see if I can see it on my web browser here. What is the IP to this thing? 42.160, 42.160. Oh yeah, I can see it. Okay, so let me show you this real quick just so you can see. Bookmarks. See, as you can see and it's working, so that's good. It was working last time I was using it, so I'm happy for that. Let's remove the service and let me see if I can, if that will work. And now let's see if this will work. Should still work, but it might not. it's actually hanging. See, look, it's hanging. You can see it here. Let me type it in for you. And it's not working this time, it's just hanging. So that's a good thing, I guess, right? So let's go back and add it. Add service. Add service, that's good. Yeah. Alright, so then what was I saying? Let me see here. Where was I? So now we saw that it has HTTP. Click on here real quick. Add service, info zone. So we see here that it has it. The thing is that we see that this is now allowed through, but look what happens when we add the permanent option to this info. So we're gonna do it again, but this time we're gonna make it permanent. CMD permanent info zone DMZ. It's not there because it's not permanent. So we didn't make it permanent. We have to tell it to be permanent. Every command line alteration of either zone or services, you need to add the permanent option to make the change permanent across reboot. So without the permanent option, the change takes effect immediately. The firewall, in order for the change to take effect, the demo I'm going to reboot the virtual machine to get rid of the, okay, I rebooted and its HTTP service is now gone. I'm not going to reboot it, but you know, you get the idea. This time I add two services with just one command and specify for the change to be permanent. So this time I'm just going to do the command that this thing wants me to do, but I'm not going to why does it do that? I hate it, but I guess I gotta do it manually. Manually it is. Anyways, sorry for that. So let's add it. I'm just gonna uh, add it on there. We know it's there, but it's not permanent. So let's make it permanent. Services, HTTP, HTTP, HTTPS. Okay, I think we have to add the curly brackets. Alright, so we made it permanent. So next time we reboot, the HTTP service will still work. I don't want to reboot, so we're just going to trust it. So let's go again and see permanent. This time we'll have HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH. It doesn't say ports, probably because they're default ports, very commonly used ports. You can add as many services as you need to with a single command, but you have to separate them with commas and enclose the whole list within a pair of curly brackets, like we just did. So now it's showing. Since we decided to make this configuration permanent, it has yet taken effect. But if we add the permanent option to the info zone, we'll see that the configuration has been indeed changed. We now need to make that change take effect by reloading the configuration. Okay, so now we're going to reload which I thought we didn't have to reload, but I guess we can for some reason. Alright, success, and if we do it again, we'll still see it there. So that's good. To remove a service, we saw how to remove a service. We never specify which zone we're working with in any of the service commands. That's because if we don't specify a zone, Firewall will just assume that we're working with the default zone. You have to add the zone if you want to add it to another zone. Alright, so this is it for this video. Next video will include the ports to the firewall zone. I'm gonna leave this file or this video up for now. It's just really basic firewall, but it's usually, you know, good to know and good to, like I said, I usually use it and forget about it, so that's why I go back to my notes and stuff like that. Anyways, have a good one. Thanks for watching.